January 10th, 2018, a Wednesday morning inside California State Prison, Sacramento. At 8:41 a.m., a group of inmates surrounded 67-year-old Devlin Gazoo Stringfellow, one of the founders of Public Enemy No. 1. Now, the story of how a punk rock gang became slaves to the Aryan Brotherhood is jacked up, man. Yo, Devlin was stabbed more than a dozen times in a coordinated attack. This dude died on the floor of the prison yard as guards tried to stop the assault. His killers were Jacob Cobbler and Stephen Dunkhurst, soldiers of a group defined by absolute control and extreme violence. Alright, so Public Enemy No. 1 started off as a small punk crew in Long Beach in the 1980s. Now, they wasn't exactly a gang at first. They was loud teenagers who loved hard rock music and rebellion. They wasn't interested in politics, they wasn't interested in racism, they just wanted identity, man. They wanted trouble. So the group shifted after a young member named Scott Miller shot the leader of a rival local gang. So this event gave Pen 1 street cred. They was no longer kids. Now they was seen as a violent white group willing to pick fights. Now Stringfellow and Donald Popeye Mazza were early leaders of the group. They helped to shape its future direction. Long Beach was crowded with black and Hispanic gangs, so a white group was forced to be tougher and smarter to survive. Now Pen 1, they wanted power, money, and identity that was all different from the rest. They expanded into Orange County, where they found a new type of recruit, white suburban teenagers who was angry, bored, and ready to prove something to the world. Now these kids never grew up in rough neighborhoods, but they wanted danger, and the gang, they gave them that in spades. By the late 1990s, Pen 1 had become heavily involved in meth dealing. Now they also ran identity theft operations using women inside banks, pharmacies, and DMVs to steal personal information, while male members handled drugs and intimidation. The money grew, the organization grew, and a major split emerged over what the gang should stand for. Now Brody Davis pushed for a white supremacist movement driven by ideology. Donald Mazza pushed for crime and profit. Now Mazza's vision won because money held real power. As arrests increased, some Pen 1 members landed in California prisons where the Aryan Brotherhood controlled every white gang and every illegal market. Independent groups wasn't allowed to survive. Now the moment Pen 1 entered into that world, their direction changed. See, the Brotherhood decided the Pen 1 would be their soldiers, and the gang's future was no longer in its own hands. Thing is, the Aryan Brotherhood needed feet on the ground. They needed men who were not isolated for life. See, their previous soldiers, the Nazi lowriders, had already been validated as a violent prison gang by law enforcement and moved into solitary units where communication was limited. The Brotherhood was losing direct control over operations. They needed a new army, and Pen 1 was the perfect tool. They was growing fast, they controlled meth networks outside, they followed the white power structure when needed, and most importantly, they wasn't officially labeled as a prison gang yet. That allowed them to move and communicate more freely than the Brotherhood itself. Now, Donald Mazza was the bridge. Around 2009, he was invited into the Aryan Brotherhood while held in Pelican Bay State Prison Security Housing Unit. That invitation changed everything. When the founder joined, every Pen 1 member inside prison was expected to follow Brotherhood orders. They became the Brotherhood's newest soldiers. They began performing hits, they enforced debts, they expanded drug distribution. The gang no longer acted for itself. They acted for the top white prison organization in America. The rise of a man named Ronald Dean Yandel intensified this transformation. He was a strong figure inside the Aryan Brotherhood who had spent years isolated in solitary confinement because of his influence. Legal pressure on the prison system eventually removed a lot of leaders from solitary confinement to avoid accusations of torture. So he returned to General Pop in 2015. And he was ready to rebuild. This dude got an illegal cell phone, and with one device, he expanded the Brotherhood's reach beyond prison walls. This dude ordered murders, he managed meth trafficking, he demanded that every white gang in California work under the Brotherhood's authority, and Pen 1 became his loudest voice. On August 12, 2015, inside Folsom Prison, Hugo Yogi Pinell, a well-known revolutionary inmate and member of the San Quentin Six, has spent decades in solitary confinement for killing a guard during a prison escape attempt. When Pinell was finally released back into the General Pop, some white inmates viewed him as a symbol of resistance and planned to attack him for years. Now here's the thing, the Brotherhood approved the hit, and he was stabbed multiple times in the yard and died shortly after that. This assault triggered a violent race riot that involved more than 70 inmates. A lot of P9 members used the murder to prove themselves to the Brotherhood. Each killing earned rank, each violent act earned trust. Now, inside prison, Pen 1 continued to grow. Outside prison, they expanded too. They established meth pipelines across SoCal, the Inland Empire, and Las Vegas. They recruited from skinhead crews and white drug circles. They threatened witnesses and law enforcement officials. They learned to move like a real organized crime group with a deeper structure and rules. But power always comes with consequences. In 2019, the federal government launched a large-scale racketeering case against the Aryan Brotherhood and associated gangs. 16 high-ranking AB members and associates was indicted. Charges covered 5 murders, 4 other planned murders, drug trafficking, and organized crime conspiracy. Federal agents collected thousands of messages and recordings from cell phones used inside maximum security prisons. The Brotherhood's control through communication technology became its weakness, and every order left a digital footprint. Every hit was traced back to leadership. Donald Mazza, one of the original creators of Pen 1 and a member of the AB, chose to cooperate with federal prosecutors in 2024. Now, he explained how the Brotherhood transformed Pen 1 from a punk group into a criminal army. He admitted that the AB ordered Devlin Stringfellow's murder because he had become unpredictable and way too open about operations. For the Brotherhood, silence is survival. Any man who threatens secrecy has got to be removed. So Mazza publicly accepted that he would be hunted for the rest of his life for speaking out to the government. Now, even with leadership arrested, violence continued. In 2024, police carried out raids on Pen 1 cells across SoCal. 57 members were arrested. They found a hit list targeting law enforcement officers and even a prosecutor. The gang had been planning executions outside the prison system, which raised the danger level to national attention. The raids slowed down operations, but history has shown the Pen 1 always rebuilds faster than expected. As long as the Brotherhood needs soldiers, Pen 1's always going to have new blood. Devin Gazoo Stringfellow helped create Pen 1 in the 1980s because he wanted belonging and power. But that group grew into something darker than he ever imagined it would be. In 2018, he was killed by the Aryan Brotherhood, the same organization that took control of the gang that he helped build in the first place. Pen 1 stopped being about music or identity, and it became a business of meth and murder run by men who would never see freedom again. Pen 1 is a warning of how fast a small group can turn into a violent network when crime becomes its purpose. What started as punk kids rebelling against boredom turned into soldiers following prison orders. The founders either died or were forced to cooperate with the government while new members continued to cycle. Today, Pen 1 still operates inside and outside prisons. They recruit through addiction and instability, enforcing the Aryan Brotherhood's power. As long as money and violence rule, the gang is going to keep on growing, even if those who built it never meant for it to go this far or go down this way.